Assalamu alaikum. We're at the countdown to Ramadan. I made a promise to myself, yes, today, that when Ramadan arrives, I will have made a complete, deep coverage of all the meanings in Juz al-Amma. I mentioned to you before, Juz al-Amma has more difficult words than any other Juz. And I think it's somehow, I don't know, I used to reject the idea of having everyone start at the back, especially the children when they're memorizing Quran. I would say, why do you have them start at the back? That's difficult. Those words are much more difficult than come in Surah Al-Baqarah or Al Imran in the front. And they would say, so they can memorize the small surah. That was the reason, which I still think is not correct. But anyway, I made the promise to Allah that I'm not going to let a word skip by me until I investigate fully, because this particular surah has many difficult words that are not used anywhere except in this particular surah. And it's a scary surah. And you know what's been going on? This surah begins about death. And so when you get to be 78, like I am, you do think about death more than you used to. So I just thought this morning I'm going to do a complete hours of effort on this particular surah. It's called Surat Naziaat. And Nazi, you always think of Hitler, right? The Nazis, we call them. Well, perhaps that's where they got the word, because when I tell you what it means, there's nothing better than learning the words of Allah and what they mean and pronouncing them and letting them into your heart as something so special. What could be more special than the words of the Almighty, Allah, in Arabic? See how much they fight Arabic, though, when you really realize who your enemy is and you understand. Makes me all the more willing to fight, because they're really getting over the top now. I mean, this is ridiculous. The leader of them is coming tomorrow to Florida. Again, how many times has he visited Florida? Anyway, I asked Dhul Intiqam, the essence of vengeance, the great avenger. Allah's name is Dhul Intiqam, the very essence of vengeance. I call upon him to intaqim, the enemy. He knows best who they are. Let's leave it at that, because whenever you think about the situation we're in, those beautiful children, those beautiful Palestinian children still starving and being rained on in the cold winter, and all these limbs missing, and this criminal butcher is arriving in my state tomorrow. My state, Florida. I adopted Florida many years ago because I like the ocean and I like the warm weather. Yeah, well, Allah decided that for me, didn't he? Because whatever you, as we know from the Qada wa Qadar, Allah determines what you're going to do. So let us begin now with the Surah Naziati, and I've split it into 3 parts. So I'll translate it part by part. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والنازيات غرقا والناشطات نشطا والسابحات سبحا فالسابقات سبقا والمدبرات أمرا يوم ترجف الراجفة تتبعها الرادفة قلوب يومئذ واجفة أبصارها خاشعة يقولون أئنا لمردودون في الحافرة أئذا كنا عظاما نخرة قالوا تلك إذا كرة خاسرة فإنما هي زجرة واحدة فإذا هم بالساهرة هل أتاك حديث موسى إذ ناداه ربه بالوادي المقدس طوى. So, I wonder if you realize from my reading that how difficult these words are. Some of you who've probably memorized it when you were children, or you know Quran, you're going to say, I don't remember those words, because really they are extremely difficult. Here is the translation. By those who extract with violence, and by those who remove with ease, and by those who glide as swimming, and those who race each other in a race. Now, I've been listening to tafsir, and the most welcome or agreed upon tafsir is this is describing the angels who come and take away your soul. So the criminals, it's hard to take it out, extracting the soul. And the good people, it eases right out. Angels. But there are other interpretations that it's not angels, and that's a whole nother story. And I accept it's angels, but others have a different opinion. And of course, tafsir is forever open, but the most commonly accepted. By the way, Prophet Muhammad did not remark on this. And that's another big subject, how so many verses, Prophet Muhammad never said anything about it. But let's continue our translation. And those who arrange each matter, on the day the blast will convulse. And in here, of course, they add words. The blast, they put of the horn. Convulse what? They put creation. But I really don't like this way. But I'll do it anyway, because that's probably what you're going to be reading is a translated Quran. There will follow it the subsequent. Hearts that day will tremble, their eyes humbled. They are saying, will we indeed be returned to our former state, even if we should be decayed bones? They say that, then, would be a losing return. Indeed, it will be but one shout, and suddenly they will be upon the earth's surface. How scary is that? You're going to be in the ground, and suddenly one shout, and everybody's going to come back on the earth's surface. Terrifying. Everyone, by the way, whoever lived. Judgment Day, everyone's gathered, and no one's looking at anyone because they're too petrified. But it's true. That's how Judgment Day is going to be, according to our religion. And the last one, the last verse is here. Has there reached you the story of Musa, when his Lord called him in the sacred, when his Lord called to him in the sacred valley of Tua? So now we will be on the second segment. اذهب إلى فرعون إنه طغى فقل هل لك إلى أن تزكى وأهديك إلى ربك فتخشى. فأراه الآية الكبرى فكذب وعصى ثم أدبر يسعى فحشر فنادى فقال أنا ربكم الأعلى فأخذه الله نكال الآخرة والأولى إن في ذلك لعبرة لمن يخشى أأنتم أشد خلقا أو السماء بناها رفع سمكها فسواها وأغشى ليلها وأخرج ضحاها وَالْأَرْضَ بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ دَحَاهَا أَخْرَجَ مِنْهَا مَاءَهَا وَمَرْعَاهَا وَالْجِبَالَ أَرْسَاهَا مَتَاعًا لَكُمْ وَلِأَنْعَامِكُمْ فإذا جاءت الطامة الكبرى. Now, to translate the second segment. I'm telling you there's going to be 3 segments, so I have to be careful when I translate because, you know, the way the pages are opposite and the numbers and all that. All right, so translation. Go to Pharaoh, Allah told Musa. Indeed, he has transgressed. And say to him, would you purify yourself? Let me guide you to your Lord, so you would fear him. And he showed him the greatest sign. But he denied and disobeyed. Then he turned his back, striving. In parentheses, they put plotting. And he gathered his people and called out and said, I am your most exalted Lord. So Allah seized him in exemplary punishment for the lost and the first. And in here, they put the transgression, the lost and the first. Indeed, and that is a lesson for whoever would fear. In parentheses, they put Allah. You don't have to put that. We know it means to fear Allah, but anyway. Are you a more difficult creation, or is the heaven? He constructed it. He raised its ceiling and proportioned it. And he darkened its night and extracted its brightness. And after that, he spread the earth. He extracted from it its water and its pasture. And the mountains he set firmly. As enjoyment for you and your grazing livestock. But when there comes the greatest overwhelming calamity, the day when man will remember that for which he strove, and how fire will be exposed for those who see. Now, the third segment, it closes, it closes the way you would expect it's going to close, and we will discuss that moreover in detail. فَأَمَّا مَنْ طَغَى وآثر الحياة الدنيا فإن الجحيم هي المأوى وأما من خاف مقام ربه ونهى النفس عن الهوى فإن الجنة هي المأوى يسألونك عن الساعة أيان مرساها فيما أنت من ذكراها إلى ربك منتهاها إنما أنت منذر من يغشاها كأنهم يوم يرونها لم يلبثوا إلا عشية أو ضحاها. Okay, so we're going to read the translation here. 34. And when there comes the greatest overwhelming calamity, the day when man will remember that for which he strove. Yeah, I just got nervous because when I read it, I think I made a little tremble. I know I did. The day that man will remember that for which he strove. What are we striving for? To find out where we want. And hellfire will be exposed for those who see. So as for he who transgressed and preferred the life of the world, then indeed hellfire will be his refuge. But as for he who feared the position of his Lord and prevented the soul from inclination, they put in parentheses, unlawful inclination, then indeed paradise will be his refuge. They ask you about the hour. When is its arrival? And what are you that you should mention it? To your Lord is its finality. You are only a warner for those who fear it. It will be on the day they see it as though they had not remained except for an afternoon or a morning. You know, everyone's talking about alamat as-saa, the signs of the end day, the signs of Judgment Day. And then, of course, there are those who say all the major signs are here. And then the minor signs are here. But that's not what Allah is telling us here in this surah. He's saying, what are you talking about? It's going to come when it's going to come. When Allah decrees it. That's when you're going to see it. And that's when you're going to know what it was you were up to. What were you striving for? Well, you know the majority. It's the hayat ad-dunya, the life of this world, the pleasures of the flesh, the pleasures of beauty, fashion, food, fame, money. Few strive for the hayat ad-dunya. And you know, I remember when I was a new Muslim in Cairo, and I had that great Sheikh Ismail as a teacher, I could not really understand that. I couldn't, because it's not easy when you're an American and you're accustomed to getting what you want and the good life, right? Everything is available, and we didn't have restrictions. We didn't have many restrictions. I mean, we had some, don't kill people and don't steal. Yeah, those were the big ones. That's about it. When I think of how the expression, the tyranny of too much freedom, that's what we were under. We were under the tyranny of too much freedom. And then you become woke in the best way. You become aware that there's an afterlife. There really is. We learned about heaven and hell, but we didn't learn about it the way the Quran teaches. So I'm so grateful. Ashkurak ya Rab, I thank you. You know, we're supposed to be always in a state of shakiran li'an ummihi. It means grateful for his favors. So let's think about that in these final days. What is it, 4 more days to Ramadan? I have a lot of work to do, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.